Gracias.
Thank you so much and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. President Moreno, First Lady, fellow President and former President, Mr. Secretary General of the OAS, ministers, ambassadors, former ambassadors, dear friends. I'd like to thank the Inter-American Institute for Democracy for this invitation. I'm very happy to be here with you, Mr. President Lenin, Rangel. Thank you for the organization of this seminar. Let me tell the moderator, even when he is president forever, I'd rather to be mentioned as former president, and I use the same term because one of the things that shouldn't be used in Latin America is to treat a president forever, and it's good to be reminded of that. We can serve according to these institutions once or several times, but with a with a period at some point in time. And according to the call in ethics and democracy has to do with those details. But thank you so much anyway for reminding me that I received the highest honor, that is to serve as a president of the Republic. So I was asked to speak about the threats to democracy in Costa Rica and Central America. We have several problems in Costa Rica. I think that democracy is doing better in Costa Rica than in other countries. Of course, I don't want to say that we need to do important corrections and to solve some phenomena that we have seen in the last years, indicating that there are some issues that should be addressed. But far from those affecting neighboring countries. We have conducted great efforts. I support the words by Macri and Pastrana. I'm going to speak about some structural threats to democracy in Central America and other three that are specific or newer threats. I understand them as long-lasting threats that have been present for many years now, and that might be more important now. And these circumstantial threats are those that confuse us, worry us, maybe as a consequence of the first ones could complicate our administration. So the three structural threats to me are the following. For Central America, poverty, inequalities that have been aggravated as a direct result of the pandemic. I think we all agree on that. And policies that are better or worse, there is more inequalities, there is more poverty directly linked to the pandemic. The average of these inequalities do not affect all the countries the same. They affect more women, rural populations, they affect more youngsters, and also the so-called especially vulnerable populations, such as the African descendants. We have to think how to recover that average, as President Macri well said, how to get back direct foreign investments. That is key to improve the income of the GDP, but we have to reach those groups specifically with public policies to bring those sectors back to the economy. There was a specific case. 50% of our populations are women. However, they are considerably excluded from the economy. They work every day at home, 2 or 3 journeys. I'm sure the First Lady knows exactly what I'm talking about. She has been working on that during the mandate, and they do that by making less money than the men, by doing the same job. So they are 2 or 3 times more discriminated. So we need special public policies for the women. We have to reach those groups with these special policies, given conditions for them to work. In speaking about poverty and inequalities, I have 2 main worries. The capacity of Central American economies of generating more jobs with direct foreign investments, and some factors related to exclusion that are aggravated in the last years. So, qualified labor leaving our country overwhelmed with the situation. We don't have people that is expelled, but we have people that escape from our country. I'm sure you know many people like that, especially people with initiative, people with entrepreneurship spirit, and highly qualified people. So we are losing a productive population in the last 25 years. That bleeding of human talent is serious. It's really bad. The second structural threat: insufficient economies in Central America, with exception of Panama, because of the canal. Economies do not grow, and when they do, over 3-4% a year. Nicaragua was an exception for 5 years. Venezuela bought everything from them at special prices. However, generally speaking, the economic history in Central America indicates 3-4% of growth, and that is not enough. We also have an outdated fiscal policy where poor people pay like rich people and rich people pay like poor. By the way, the rich people here in the United States, Buffett and others, have criticized that. We have to say that. We have to assume that. We have to accept that. Not to put more and more taxes, but we need to adopt a progressive, decent tax reform. Productive systems are not competitive, they are not productive, they are ineffective, and disqualified labor. This is something that impacts us a lot. So, insufficient economies, we do not grow the way we should grow. And the third structural threat is a weak governance structure. I mean, state institutions that are less and less able to meet social demands. And not like Patron. No, I'm not speaking about a corrupt state. No, I speak about those states that are small, that are effective, that are able to reach people that need services, safety, healthcare, education, transportation, infrastructure. and they spend years and years generating expectations that are not met. Now, that being said, speaking about those three structural threats, now I'm going to speak about circumstantial or maybe political threats. Some of them have been repeated, and you have said some specific cases. Number one, I think there is a collapse of governance in the two dimensions that we professors like to use as paradigms of governance: legitimacy of the mandate in traditional democracy. This is measured in elections, and the mandate that is received from the people after the elections. And number two, what sociologist Arriba from Costa Rica said or described a good government, what we expect a good government to do. And in an environment of distrust, polarization, corruption, credibility or reliability of people, of politicians, and with fake news circulating, and the post-truth mentioned by some people here, generated in social networks, or you live as an anonym and you can accuse anybody of anything without any consequences. Dysfunction of democracy that are already important. We have to be realistic. This is all magnified, and not even countries like mine with a very solid democratic tradition such as Colombia, Ecuador, Chile, Argentina. This could lead to violence. Then the authoritarian temptation. Vis-a-vis this dysfunction, there is populism and proposal of solving all the problems of democracy, not as Jefferson said, who said that problems of democracy can be solved with more democracy. Now, some people want to kill democracy, facing those who defend it, destroying democracy. That's the recipe that we know. We know those steps. Carlos Sanchez and others describe that. And this is what we are seeing today, unfortunately and clearly, in El Salvador. This country has not been mentioned in this seminar, but I have to mention that. If we don't criticize what is going on in El Salvador, and we are going to criticize Venezuela, we have to criticize what Bolsonaro does and what Ortega does. Populism has no ideology. Some of you said that before. In that regard, we have to say that clearly. There is a rupture between branches, authoritarian governments, and in the last stage, this can go to a cruel regime, violating human rights, committing crimes, as it was the cases of the governments of Venezuela and Nicaragua, ratified by the reports of all the commissions of human rights of the main bodies of the hemisphere and internationally. And the third circumstantial threat, the organized crime. Number four, the COVID in healthcare and society, added to the problem of two extreme phenomena, like the two hurricanes that hit Central America last year, with a major human, social, and economic consequences. So we have a concerning landscape before us. We have to accept it. It seems to me that responsibility is on us. We have to prevent, to some extent, to exacerbate exclusion. We don't need dead people on our streets. We don't need violence on our streets as consequences of the conditions that I mentioned. We have to defend democracy. I totally agree with Mauricio Macri. And we have to say that aloud, and we have to defend it, to denounce and to report authoritarian attitudes, and to support the state of law. And once again, I quote the French Revolution and the American Revolution, especially one of the main values of the Republic. It's an invention. The Republic of the Greeks, of what was recovered very strongly in the ideal of the revolution in the United States and Europe by the end of the 19th century, the strength of the institutions. Thank you very much.